Hey guys, Courtney here with SOR Enduro Racing. This season, we're bringing some exciting changes. In addition to our Sprint Enduro series, we're thrilled to announce the inclusion of 2 cross-country races. Join us this season to put your skills and speed to the test as you race against the clock on our Sprint Enduro special tests and showcase your strength and endurance on our cross-country courses. Head over to our Instagram page at SOR Enduro Racing or our webpage at www.sorenduroracing.livelats.com for more information. Remember guys, keep it between the tape.
Hey, I'm Noel. Welcome to episode 7 of the Enduro Bureau Podcast. With me, as always, my cohorts in crime and podcasting, Courtney and Jared. Courtney, what's up today?
Well, not a whole bunch other than just hammering out lots of last minute stuff for the series as we're approaching like 3 weeks away. So feels like so much to do and the time's gone by way too quick.
Well,
Not
I
for
saw
me.
you. Yeah, no,
I've been just working on quads, covering cow poopy, and a few other things.
Sweet. I have nothing for that. I saw
Courtney
you
lives
guys.
the exciting life.
Yeah,
I just behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'd much rather work on my computer all day than versus working on cow craft covered quads.
well, I saw the announcement from you guys today. Big news. Phil Cheney is going to be coming to the 3 sprint rounds of the SOR Enduro series here in Alberta.
Yeah, that's super exciting. We asked him what his main motivation was, and it was to kick my ass. So
To take away the well, I mean, what does this do for prize money for you? Because I know it's
Yeah, we were on a budget. I had Jared. I was like, "You have to win, so we can give you the pro van."
yeah, I'll just if he beats me, I'll beat him up in the parking lot after and mug him for his cash.
Yeah.
we can have we could charge admission for that.
You get it. Backyard mud wrestling.
That could be our first video podcast episode.
Deal.
That'll be sick. I'm getting ready. By the time this drops next week, right now it's Tuesday, March 19th, but here in Calgary and down in Medicine Hat, we're basically waiting for at any minute a blizzard to start rolling in. Fairly major weather event. I'm on my way down to Page, Arizona to cover the Grinding Stone Hard Enduro from the US Hard Enduro series. I was going to leave Thursday early morning, but seeing as it's supposed to be like 30 to 50 centimeters over the next couple days, I think
Oh my god!
I'm leaving tomorrow morning. So
Wise choice.
Yeah, good times. It's been a little bit of a frenetic day. I struggle with organization sometimes, and trying to get ready a day early has been a bit of a brain breaker for me, but soldier on.
Loose program.
It's my favorite saying now. It's a loose program. Courtney called you a loose program before you came on.
That's fair. That's super accurate.
Okay. Well, there we go. Hey, so our guest tonight for episode 7, another hardcore member of the racing community, hardcore member of the Hard Enduro and Endurocross racing community. He hails from a small town up our way in Alberta with one of the best town names I've ever heard, Tomahawk, Alberta. I just want to say that like a ring announcer. From Tomahawk,
I was just gonna say that.
Alberta. He's a young gun in the hard enduro and endurocross world, and we're so pleased to have him on the show. Everybody, welcome Branden Petrie.
Yeah.
Branden Petrie.
I haven't saw you since we were both flogging enduro bikes at Arena Cross.
Wow, that's right. I was trying to think about that. That was a good time. I'd love to get back to one of those these days.
Yeah, we were lucky that the jumps weren't big enough and the whoops weren't big enough. Our enduro suspension was just shining.
For sure, we were At least they would get away with some things.
Exactly. No big triples. We were safe.
So, so Branden, where are you now?
Yeah, I just drove up from Phoenix today, up to Page, Arizona for the Grinding Stone this weekend. Just a pretty low-key travel day, bike work all morning. Seems to be the theme recently is I work on bikes more than I ride them. So, yeah, good to be here.
Yeah.
Right on. So I saw you just about 2 months ago, I guess, almost exactly, in California at King of the Motos, and I can't wait for you to tell the story of your MacGyverism in the main event there. You had one of the great MacGyver stories I think that there will be for the season. So looking forward to that. But how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I had not the most ideal off season with the way Endurocross ended. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, but was able to take my off season a little bit early, which kind of gave me a bit of a head start getting back on the bike to some other people. Most people take like a good 2 to 4 weeks off anyways to really reset after Hard Enduro because it's a pretty strenuous year. So I like to look at that optimistically. So I was able to get back on the bike a little earlier and was able to get a solid off season of trials and some motocross. And yeah, I was able to come out in decent form at King of the Motos.
Yeah. I mean, given everything that happened, you finished up with an 11th P11 overall, I believe.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. I had a good streak of the full season in the top 10 up until that point. So yeah, I was bummed to lose that streak, but at least now the points for the year are kind of out the window in my mind. So I just, from here on out, I need to show some speed and hopefully a couple flashes of brilliance here and there.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I guess it's interesting you were talking about riding some motocross in your off season there. I know when I talked to you during Endurocross, that's one thing you had identified is a challenge for you was speed and transition. And that you were hoping to work on some motos, and then again, some stuff happened, and we will get into it. But how has the speed work been going?
It's been good. I was a nice change of pace this off season. I basically only rode trials really, really slow, and then motocross working on my intensity. I don't feel that there's a ton of value into just riding hard enduro motos anymore. Like I've rode, enduro single track stuff my whole life, and there's not a ton of progression you can make in that in a quick time. So it's really beneficial to work on like drastically on either end of the spectrum. So I was really happy with the improvements I was able to do, and I'm looking to ride a lot of motocross and to keep. Oh,
Sorry, you're breaking up there, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, reconnected there. Can you hear me now?
Let's see. Oh, there he is. Hi.
Huh. That was weird.
That's bizarre. It's like you're lost in the third dimension.
Yeah, it was like Interstellar there. I could see you guys, but no one would respond. I was like, what is going on here?
That is going to be the greatest Interstellar reference we ever have on the podcast. So, well, why don't we just rewind a little bit? Branden, I was asking before we kind of ran into our technical difficulties that it was interesting. You were saying you were talking about working on your motocross this off season, and when I had talked to you during Endurocross, that's one of the things you had actually identified was speed work was something you were really lacking in, that you hadn't trained much before, and that you felt was hurting you, like speed and transition. So, how has that motocross training been going?
Yeah, it's been going very well, actually. I was on Vancouver Island this whole winter, so I was able to avoid the snow and get some work in. So I was only able to ride motocross on the weekends, but yeah, I was going up every weekend to Nanaimo Motocross, which it's a really good track, but definitely the weather was not kind to me the whole winter. It was just muddy, raining every day. Yeah.
Weird.
The
It was raining on Vancouver Island? Weird.
I know. But the wasteland's unprepped while it's raining
Gnarly.
every day was definitely tough, but
Are you still running full-time bibs on that track, I imagine?
I had a bib in the front, tube in the rear, but yeah, I was surviving out there. Yeah, I was really happy though, and just I'm such a noob on a motocross track that just getting out there and doing laps, I'm progressing every lap. So even though it wasn't the most ideal high quality laps always, it was good.
That's good, man. It's still techie and learning how to go fast when those conditions are a bit gnarly or not perfect. And then when you do have those conditions, better conditions, it just feels better. It's kind of like why we ride winter studs all winter. It feels like sometimes not so good. And then you get back on some good stuff and it's awesome. You learn a lot.
For sure. Especially, have you rode at wastelands before?
Back in the day when I was motocrossing full time, just the national, I'd go do out there.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an interesting one track. It has some very hard pack parts, and then it has like 2 foot deep mud ruts with
Ruts,
water
yeah.
in all the transitions. It's basically barely a motocross track. It's more of an off road loop.
Yeah.
It's good
That's
fun
solid. That's
though.
some good training.
So yeah, and then you were working on trials. I mean, obviously a core skill for the enduro guys. How's that been? How's that been going?
Yeah, it's been good. I have a Sherco Trials bike as well, so I put a lot of time into that thing this winter as well. Just the progression on that thing is endless, and the room that I still have to grow on a trials bike. So like, I'll never master that in my lifetime. But it's just good to get out there and work on the small things.
Oh, we were dropping you again a little there, but no worries. We will push through. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Branden, and kind of how you came into the sport and how you somehow ended up in the hard enduro world, which is not, fairly common in off-road racing.
Yeah, so I had a very
we lost you
you can't hear
again.
me.
I know you can still see us and hear
You can
us.
still hear us. We know this.
Don't talk shit.
God damn it. Oh no. Are you typing in the chat?
He is typing in the chat. What is it like in the third dimension?
Actually, what dimension are we actually in?
We're in a third dimension.
Would it be the fourth? Quantum world?
Oh, Quantum.
You're still
Quantum Leap. That was a great show. But then you're gonna be like, oh, we don't know that show. We're not old enough.
Yeah.
What is that show?
Noel's the old guy. Quantum Leap. Oh my god. was
Explain.
amazing.
We must know.
It was this dude. He what's the synopsis? A guy somehow has some quantum accident. Oh, here's Branden again.
We'll finish that later.
Yo.
I was literally just trying to explain the show Quantum Leap to these people, which again, you're so young, you've probably never heard of it. Yeah.
I can't say I have, unfortunately.
That was a classic moment for me. I don't know if you would have listened to the Will Reardon episode of our podcast, but I asked him straight up early. I was like, look, you're Australian, AC/DC or In Excess. And he's like, I don't know who In Excess is. I was like, but then neither did these guys. So come on.
But then again,
it was brutal.
Everyone
Too
knew
young, I
AC/DC.
Yeah. Anyway, why don't we give it one more shot? And if it's not working, hey, we'll just do it. We'll try it again on Thursday. But
okay. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. It seems good right now. Okay, so where were we? We were talking about we were talking about trials. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Branden, how you came from small town Alberta to become this Hard Enduro, Endurocross pro, how you came into the sport and how you ended up going the enduro cross country route versus motocross.
So I definitely had a bit of an unconventional start. I didn't get my first dirt bike until I was, I believe, 9 or 10 years old. It was just a crappy bike from Canadian Tire, just a little Chinese thing. I barely rode it, didn't even like it, and yeah, I didn't actually get. I got an XR100 when I was 11, and that's when I started to enjoy it a little bit. And that was the same year, 2011, where they had Extinction, and my cousin Cole was racing in the pro class, and I was able to go spectate that year, and that was the year that Graham Jarvis came, and that really opened my eyes to the sport and really made me fall in love from it from there.
Wow. I mean, yeah, seeing Graham Jarvis out at Extinction, which for those who don't know is where Red Bull Outliers happens. Yeah, that would have been mental.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. Just the race and everything, and I was done for it at that point. I was obsessed and got moved up to a TTR the next year and did my first race, and yeah, somehow I don't know how after my first race went so horribly. I don't know why I didn't just quit after that one because it was a CEC. I don't know if would you have been at that one, Jared?
I was right before what year would that have been?
2012.
I don't think I started racing off road till 13.
Still up 13, yeah.
So
Yeah.
what was
Yeah, it was
this?
just
What was the CEC?
it was I believe it was special tests. You had an extreme test, like a faster test and like a cross test, and you did 3 laps. It was kind of Enduro GP-ish. And long story short, though, I was out there for over 6 hours. I didn't realize there was no kids class for that. I just signed up for junior or whatever. I was the only kid out there, and I just made some sweeper's life horrible for like 6 hours until I finally was just done.
But you persevered. I mean, there must have been something there that you wanted to keep coming back for more.
I guess, yeah. I guess maybe that was my Hard Enduro started. I must have found some enjoyment in that 6 hours of suffering.
You know, it's funny. Shelby Turner was talking about that last week. Just, you know, like you got to really love to suffer and love to hurt yourself out there and be good with misery,
Right.
I think.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely tend to find that the races, the longer and more grueling, the better for me. And that these short, really sprint races are not overly my forte. I usually need a good 2-3 hours to wear them down a little.
So this weekend's going to be not your favorite then because it's a series of, what is it, like 4 races in total? Saturday morning, Saturday evening, and then Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, right?
Yeah. So they're all on the shorter side. The final, I believe, is still 2 hours. So there's definitely still some attrition in that. But this race is a little short on the side for me, but I really, really love this area and just riding here in general. This is probably my favorite race of the year, even though it's up on the short side for me.
So how did you progress from suffering for 6 hours, making sweepers' lives miserable, and now you're racing for, you know, Sherco USA, or Sherco support, I guess. Why don't you tell us about that progression and how you ended up with the ride?
Yeah, it was a fairly slowish progression, I would say. Every year I moved up a Canadian class. I was never winning. I was just like an average junior and then an average intermediate and then an average expert, and then I went pro probably way too early and was just a bad pro. And then
When was that?
so I moved up every year, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, went pro. And that was the year that I started training with Trystan and really I was able to go to a lot of American races and really open my eyes up to the level and the level of dedication that it would take. And I was able to make a lot of progress in those couple years.
What's it like having the robot as a mentor?
Oh man. We could do 3 hours of stories from the couple years that I was his roommate. Yeah. The training days that we did, like
What's your favorite Tristan story?
From that
that is a
era.
tough one. From that era,
Mhm.
probably I remember one of the first times I ever got there, I was roofing with his brother Wyatt as well. So I would do a full day of roofing and then we'd come back and in every mirror it's really hot in the summer. So it was like 35 and we'd I'd have a day on the roof, come back, he'd have the track all ready to go, and we would just do endless enduro cross motos. Just the heat was insane. I remember that first week I was there, we did a massive hard enduro ride in the morning, like 4 or 5 hours. Barely had time to stuff my face with some food, and we went back out for enduro cross motos. And yeah, I nearly went home that day. But I felt like deep down she was almost just trying to break me in that first week to see if I was worth training with or keeping around. But something made me stay. I was like, I felt like he was trying to break me, and that was the reason I had to stay.
That's awesome.
That
Yeah.
is super cool.
Did
I
he
mean,
ever reveal to you that was his plan?
No, I asked him, and he claims that he wasn't trying to break me, but I don't buy it. Because we never did it. We never did that again. We rode twice in a day, like a fair bit, but we've never had like a week like what we did that first week ever again. That was insane.
It was Hard Enduro Hell Week.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So from there, you're riding with Trystan, and then you're progressing up the ranks. How did it go where you started getting how did you end up riding with Sherco?
Yeah, so I had a good couple years just traveling around with him, and then moved a couple things around, rode with SRT for a year. Kind of was doing really good in Endurocross that one year. I had gotten my first top 10 in that and top 5 in a moto. And that's when I started talking to Wayne Dickert. And he mentioned that they were trying to put together a Sherco support team for the next year. And yeah, things just started rolling from there.
And when was that? What year?
That would have been late 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the program is, I mean, I can see the progression in the program. You guys have picked up some new sponsors this year. I know you were saying like you're riding Climb Gear now, and in California, you were really happy with it.
Yeah, I was stoked. We've made a couple sponsor changes this year, and definitely stoked on the Climb Gear, and we're with Metis again, and yeah, all around just stoked with the people I have around me.
Awesome. One of the things I know these guys like to talk about, and I'm always fascinated to listen to, is talking about training and bike setup. You're a tall dude. How tall are you, Branden?
Like 6'4"
Ish, yeah.
Ish.
So who's
Yeah.
taller? Is Cody Webb taller than you?
I believe he's 6'3", he told me. I believe.
Oh, so
Could be
you
wrong,
could be
but-
the tall guy out there.
The
So-
tallest
Yeah.
guy.
I definitely look bigger. I'm definitely a bit more awkward out there.
So one of the things even I as a dolt picked up on right away was your massive seat that you've built up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and your overall setup as such a tall guy doing this sport?
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot is, bar heights, tag heights, seat heights, just the overall cockpit is something I definitely go back and forth on a lot. But where I always come back to is I'm always on low and back pegs and low bars with a tall seat, usually, except this winter I find with hard enduro, you can kind of get yourself into trouble with a tall seat because it makes my long leg advantage go away in some certain situations. So I only run the tall seat for Endurocross now, where, not that often that you have to really touch, and ideally your feet are on the pegs most of the time anyways.
That seat is amazing. I mean, it's basically 2 seats.
No, it is 2 seats. I took an old seat and just set it on top of it and then shaved it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How did you get a seat cover to cover that thing?
Moto seat, they've got me dialed.
Nice.
Yeah.
So as a tall guy in hard enduro, I mean, you're saying you're long-legged advantage. And as I think about it, like that must be a big advantage having long limbs because you've got so much more leverage. You can do so much more with the bike in awkward situations, I would guess.
For sure. It's a massive give and take where there's a lot of situations, and it definitely starts to favor me more as the track gets harder and there's more like lifting, manhandling, awkward situations where size really helps. However, when you go to a race that is a little faster and requires more core strength, more being connected to the bike, definitely the bigger guys like myself struggle more with staying with the bike and not when you're falling off it. It's a slow grind of, you're pumping up, you're getting more tired because you're falling off it. And a lot of hill climbs too is like, I've never been very good at hill climbs, partly to do with just, I don't want to say my size, but just my strength to my size ratio isn't ideal. That's the other massive area that I'm working on is I'm 210 pounds and I'm not very strong in terms of like power to weight movements. So I can tend to struggle in those areas.
Interesting.
So what does training look like for you now then in terms of that sort of stuff to bring the physical, try and build that physical strength you're saying that you need maybe a little more of?
So yeah, this winter I've definitely been taking a pretty big step back from cardio. I've done just ridiculous amounts the last years that I have a very strong base now, and I feel like there's a lot higher benefits to just working on strength right now. So I'm doing a fair bit of heavy lifting, definitely taking my back into consideration. I'm not being outrageous, but I'm trying to do some heavier compound stuff and just a lot of stability. I have a lot of imbalances all throughout my body, injuries that bounce side to side as I go up. I have a bad left ankle, a bad right knee, a bad left shoulder. So the imbalances are endless. So I'm really just trying to, sort those out.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be, for the beating you guys take in a race. I mean that's got to be pretty tough to manage.
For sure. There's an overall level of core strength and just like muscular balance that is needed. That is definitely, I have a lot of room for growth in that area.
Do you do a lot of Pilates type stuff?
A little bit. I did a lot of it when I was first just starting to move my back again and just like general movement. I was doing a fair bit of stuff along those lines.
Well, since we're talking about your back, why don't we go down that road a little bit? So, last season Endurocross, you were battling kind of in and out of the top 10. My first rounds to go to and cover in person were in Idaho Falls, the doubleheader. And the first night you did pretty well. And I think that broke you into the top 10 overall, right? Because I don't think you had to qualify. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I had just gotten into the top 10 from the previous weekend in Arizona. That one had gone pretty good. And then I was having a good night the first night in Arizona, or no, in Idaho Falls, sorry.
Yeah.
And I ended up having a small tire malfunction, came off the rim.
So you broke your bead or something, right?
So I DNF'd the one moto, so that put me back outside of the top 10, which I had to qualify for the night 2 of Idaho Falls, so I was in that extra main, which that was a hectic one as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting course, right? Because that Idaho Falls was the round where people showed up and there was a lot of, I don't know if the right, just say like a lot of complaints about the course and that it wasn't hard enough. And so they came back, they added, a matrix, which there hadn't been a matrix on in that course for the first night. They added it for night 1. They got it done in time. And then night 2, they made some more changes and then they ran it in reverse. And there's a pretty, I'm trying to remember now. It was a big up and over a giant tire obstacle with like a drop, or were people jumping over that gap, or I can't really remember what was happening.
So yeah, it was a left-hand corner and then a small double, and then it was a pretty good sized double. Like it wasn't like everyone was hitting it basically, and it was pretty definitive to a left and right line, and there was a log skinny up the middle of
there
it.
was like a little skinny bridge.
And so all day I had hit it on the right, the exact same line, and yeah, it was kind of just a freak thing, honestly. The main was going really good. I had got a good start. I was, up in the top 5 to 10-ish. And they had all the tires lined up at the same height. It was the landing. And then on the left and the right side, they had a larger tire, kind of like as a barrier to keep you in between the two of them. I was like markers, I guess. And yeah, I just went a few inches to the right. Like there was a pretty small room for error, and I didn't overjump it or underjump it. I just drifted right a little bit. I followed Will off it, and he went straight, but I just ventured right a little bit and landed front wheel, rear wheel on that tire. And then it pitched me over, and then I just rode the front all the way down into the matrix to where my front tire hit the first log, and then I just went head first into the second log.
Yeah. For those who don't know, a matrix in endurocross is a series of horizontal log obstacles. Usually at varying distances, so you can, do jump combos, single, double, triple, whatever. So and I remember I was shooting in that race, in that moto, I was shooting right at the end of the finish jump, and right into that left-hand corner that you were talking about. And I remember seeing you, and it was like, I don't know, a couple minutes into the moto, I guess. And I knew you'd had a good start. You were running up in my mind, it was like, yeah, I think you were running about 5th. And I was pretty stoked for you. And then I heard a big ooh from the crowd after you went by. That really bad noise. And it was a good crowd in Idaho Falls. And I knew something had happened, and then I was looking and I didn't see you. And I was like, oh no, like you must have crashed. And then it just was kind of chaos from there, and time compressed for me a bit, but it just seemed like a lot of chaos on the track where they were trying to figure out exactly what to do, because you were in such a vulnerable spot. Like you were blind to people coming over and trapped. At that point you were kind of stuck between the first and second log. I don't know if you're pinned on your bike or not. I couldn't see, but yeah, like, and all of a sudden, like I see people jumping up onto the tires and trying to wave people over, but there was no yellow flags, or I'm trying to remember. And it took them a long time to figure out, I guess, to throw the red flag because of where you were. So, what was your, what's your memory of that?
Yeah, my memory, it's interesting. It's not as traumatic of an event when I really look back on it. Like when I landed, I just remember it happened so fast. I felt zero pain. I hit the ground and it was almost like peaceful in a scary way. Like when I hit, it just went completely quiet. Like I could feel everything, but all the breath had gone from my lungs, and it was just, I laid there still for a few seconds. And then once I started realizing I couldn't breathe, just because I had knocked the wind out of myself and was going into such into shock, I was laying there. And then once I started realizing, I was like, man, I'm just on the track and there's people jumping over my legs. And I wanted to get up, but I tried to lift up once and nothing happened. I could still feel everything. I wasn't at that level of freaking out yet, but I tried to do a quick movement and my body was telling me like, no, like you cannot get up. And so I in the video, I kind of like put my leg up in the air a little bit, because in my mind, no one was by me. I was all by myself with people jumping over my legs and Mike, and it was madness for a while. When someone first came over to me, I I was trying to scream at them to say, like, like, I'm okay. Like, I'm not dying. Like, I'm okay, but you have to stop the race because I can't get up. But I don't think any words were actually coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like like I was yelling as loud as I could, but I don't even know if the guy heard, because he was just waving his hands and looking at me and just seeing like fear in my eyes basically. But once a couple people got to me, they started pushing people more to the left side of the track, but it took a long time for them to find the red flag or decide to red flag it. I'm not sure, but the race went on for a couple laps, which was a bit scary. And yeah, I just kind of needed a minute to, once I got on my feet and I was able to walk away, luckily, under the power of some people. And once I
Yeah.
got out of there, we went into the bathroom, and I honestly, at that point, I had fully gotten my breath back. I didn't feel any pain, and I talked to the medic, and I said, I was like, I think I'm okay. And the guy's like, yeah, I think you're fine too, and he just let me leave.
Well, that's it. And then
And
I talked to you later that night and you're like, oh, yeah, no, I should be fine for Oregon, like, which was, I think, a week later or 2 weeks later. I can't remember. But you
yeah,
were like,
one
no, no.
weekend off.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that was, I hadn't seen the video yet. And I just knew you were hurting. And like, when I came around the track trying to figure out what was happening and I saw you were still laying there, like, I just was trying to message Kylie, like, hey, like, I can see him moving. Like, I think he's okay. And then I was trying to message her and then I was like, oh, she's already out there. Like, she moved fast.
Oh yeah, she took some people out on the way down to the floor.
Yeah, I mean, that was impressive. And then, so, and I think I talked to you a couple days later again, and you're like, or I checked in with Kylie and, when I was driving back to Alberta from Idaho Falls, and she was saying you're pretty stiff and sore. And you kind of said the same thing later that day, like, I'm stiff and sore, but I think I'm okay. And then I guess you must have got reevaluated at some point.
Yeah, so up until like that night and even the next day, I really thought that I was okay. I just thought that it was, it was a hard hit. My body was locked up, just muscles, some deep bruising. But that night, I really wasn't able to sleep at all. And when I did finally fall asleep and I woke up the next morning, I was like soaking wet, head to toe, in just sweat, like just cold sweats, basically. And that's when I kind of thought, like, oh, maybe I should probably go get checked out because my body is still in shock, like 12 hours later or whatever. So we ended up going to the hospital, getting some X-rays. And they said, everything's good, so you're all right. So I hopped in the van, drove to Salt Lake City, and I called Wayne. I said I need a gas tank because the amount of people that drove over my bike cut my gas tank open. So I was like, I need a gas tank the next weekend. He was getting it lined up, and I really, really believed that with 2 weeks of sitting on the couch, I would be all right. But I think it was a day or two later that the hospital called and said that they thought there might have been a small fracture. So they said I had to go get an MRI. So I went, got that checked out, and then that's when they found a few fractures in my T6. Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly, I mean, that shut down your season, obviously. So what was that like at that point? Were you worried that were you kind of freaking out at all that, like, oh my God, what if I can't ride, or maybe this is like a career ender or anything like that?
Not really. Like I really believed like that I would be okay and that I would be able to get back. And I can't say I ever really second guessed coming back.
Yeah. I mean, that's nuts. So you were, I mean, I think I remember talking to you and you were basically for the next 2 weeks, you were just sort of laid up. And then when were you able to really get moving again?
Yeah, so they said 4 to 6 weeks before I would want to be doing much for activity, and I followed that fairly closely. Like for the first, I would say like 2 or 3 weeks, I was basically just fully on the couch, and I didn't really start moving till that like third or fourth week of like, like getting walking on the treadmill and some stretches and some movement because I really had almost no movement or mobility in my back. Like I could barely twist or do anything. So I took it very seriously, and my back is still locked up. It's still telling me that I shouldn't move yet. And they gave me the option of they said you could get the turtle shell, like the back brace, or be very careful. And so I chose to just be very careful because I was afraid of the core strength that I would lose in that time and how that would like really put me back. And I think that was the right decision. My mobility in my back is still very bad, but I think it was the right move. I guess time will tell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that would have been around like, I think that was like October, like the third weekend of October or something. And you must have been at that point like
November.
November. Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry. My bad.
Mm.
And so at that point, you're probably thinking like, okay, King of the Motos, like, 2 and a bit
Mhm.
months,
Yeah.
can I be ready to go for that?
Yeah, that was the big goal that I had from way when that happened. I was like, man, like King of the Motors, that's going to be tough to have, put a substantial amount of work in before, because I knew I'd be able to go to it, but I don't want to just show up without, having a solid off season. But luckily, I was able to get it together and, put in a good amount of work.
Did you guys do any follow-up X-rays or MRIs to see the progression of something like an injury like that healing?
I didn't go back for more X-rays. I was pretty close with my chiropractor who was helping me, and she was very confident it was about the 6 week mark that with the way I was moving and what she thought that I was good to go from there. So yeah, I didn't go back for any follow-up X-rays.
Okay.
Maybe should have, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting with the back, it's just one of those things that's pretty vital. And I'm just not real familiar with how much how much those heal and how quickly they do.
Yeah, I think it depends on where on your back that you have broken or fractured or strained, but everyone's so different with their recovery. I mean, obviously for myself too, but just listening to your story just makes me cringe and feel like so much pain for what you had to go through as far as being so vulnerable in that situation and not really being able to do anything except for wait for that help. Did you find that you experienced a lot of post trauma of being able to attempt those same types of obstacles afterwards?
uh well, not yet because
Yeah.
it's still hard enduro season, so I haven't faced those demons yet. Those that'll be coming,
Yeah.
but I haven't rode endurocross or you know been hitting any tire doubles. So I could see like there being a bit of anxiety around going back to endurocross, but it's definitely something I'll have to work through
Yeah, definitely. I think once you achieve it once and get back into it, then your mental state will be more powerful than you think for sure.
You'll
for
do better
sure.
than me. I one time in like 2000 and I want to say 14, when I started
Okay.
riding off road, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna ride endurocross. I can do this, and I practiced for it, and on a rainy day at the Calgary setup there, and went ass over the tea kettle, landed on my neck, like tweaked my got. I'm pretty sure I concussed myself, and I didn't ride in endurocross. I was pretty banged up. I didn't ride endurocross again until like whenever Outliers was downtown for the first time. So I took a solid like 9 years off from Endurocross. I said, nope, that's not my
Wow.
jam.
That's a long time.
Yeah, that's how much I didn't like it.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
it's time
It's too
to.
bad because it's too bad that it was at Idaho Falls. I mean, I really enjoyed the track, and like I'm still very excited to go back. It's another doubleheader this year, so it'll be, the same 2 days, the same feelings. But I feel like that's, it's going to be challenging, but it's something I'm still looking forward to, as I've always really enjoyed the Idaho Endurocross.
Yeah, that's good. It's good mentality.
Yeah.
One of the things I really enjoyed from that race was when we went out for dinner, I think on the Friday night, and you had a blooming onion for the first time.
Yep, that was a first.
I think it was awesome. You were so like, what is the point of this thing?
Yeah, there was so many shapes, and yeah, it was
Anyway, that
so
was a
many
good
flavors.
I was amazed you'd never had one. So
Yeah.
many shapes and flavors. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we kind of keep going along? And so you come back, you go to King of the Motos, showed up, like you look great physically, you look strong, and you rode really well, I thought. But I mentioned at the beginning, you had this unfortunate lap one incident, which led to an amazing MacGyver story on the main race on the Sunday. Why don't you talk us through that a little bit? I mean, I guess I'll start with the start of the race goes up a climb, a pretty gnarly technical climb called Chocolate Thunder. Just by
Yeah.
itself isn't bad, but in the context of the start, it's mental. And, big crowds, huge step ups. And I was standing up kind of near the top of it, looking down, and I was starting to shoot from up a high angle to catch what was going on. And all I saw was Cody Webb popped up in the lead. And then Branden Petrie popped up in P2, like gone. And I was just like, and in the context of King of the Motos, King of the Hammers, there's a lot of, those, there's a certain voting demographic that goes there. And so I realized the irony of me shouting multiple times, but especially at that moment with this huge crowd around me, let's go, Branden. And seeing you take off in P2 was pretty cool. Like you were the only person to take this crazy high left line.
Which was surprising to me because last year I took it as well, but I followed like 4 people off it. It wasn't really a big deal last year, but I guess just the way that the wind and the rain and the sand, the line, it really wasn't there this year. And so when we only walked the start because it was a GPS race, but we walked up and I looked at it. I was like, it doesn't look very good. So I really didn't even think about it, and I walked the other 4 possible lines, and really all you can do in a start like that is, get the best jump you can, and then if you don't get a good jump, just go wherever you can. So I got off till I think I was like 6th maybe,
Yeah, 5th,
and
6th.
I had absolutely no plan of doing it until I had already done it, basically. And yeah, I honestly, I don't really have an explanation. I had planned on just following. I think Cooper was right in front of me. I had planned on just following him, and then yeah, I just went for it.
Well, and it was a great move, especially because this is actually the picture that's on the homepage of my website at the enduro.bureau.com, if anyone's interested. And you can see like, you're squirting out and there's this massive, not pile up, but a massive like log jam happening right behind you. That Will Reardon's in the middle of, Trystan's caught behind, like everybody's caught behind, and you were just gone. And riding really well for that first lap. You were riding like top 5, top 6.
Yeah, going back and watching some footage right behind me, I think Trystan was the first one to try it, and then he didn't make it. And then there was a pretty large, small pile up there that I was definitely lucky to avoid by taking the high line.
Yeah, like Will got held up significantly. Ryder ended up coming up second last or dead last, I think, after all of that. And yeah, it was nuts and things shook out. But, it was that kind of race too, where with those long open transitions, like you could make places back. But yeah, so tell us about how that lap developed and what happened.
Yeah, so I lost some places pretty quickly on those fast open trails. I think I settled into about like 6th or 7th, I would say. I was battling with Quinn Wenzel. We had just lost the toe of Colt and Cooper. We had just kind of lost them, and we were dropping down this one downhill. It was pretty gnarly. There was a couple of spots that we were getting off our bikes and walking them, and yeah, it was a freak thing. I just dropped off this little rock, and the throttle cable just snapped off. I had never broke a throttle cable in my life, and so I was confused about where it had broke. So first thing that I had thought, because I'd had it pop off with the carburetor before, so I took the carb off quick to see if it had popped off. That wasn't it, so that was a waste of time. Go back up to the throttle housing, and it had broken off there. And at that point, I really had no plan. I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to have to yank the throttle cord with my hand to get out of it. And luckily, because it would have been pretty dangerous. So Evan Ask was filming right there, and he told me, I had a set of pliers, and he said, break the grip wire and wrap the grip wire around, and then crimp it on, and then jam it in there. And I was like, there's no way that's going to work. But it worked. It somehow, when I had it all jammed in there, the lowest RPM was half throttle. So, and this is in a massive rock garden down a hill.
Nice.
So when I start the thing revs to the moon. Thought I was going to blow it up. I had to adjust it a little. And yeah, I rode out. Luckily, there was only probably 15 minutes left of the lap. I was lap 1 out of 3. And yeah, I limped it out of there. Well, not really limped, because I was wide open, but holding it with the rear brake to, like, clutch in, rear brake on, just to keep the revs down. And yeah, I was wide open out on the trails out of there. And when we got back, my friend, and who he was there with me mechanicking, Quinn, he had figured this out already somehow through all the riders who had passed me had already made it back to the check and said that I had broken my throttle cable. So he took my spare throttle cable and went out to where I was, not thinking that I would be able to fix it. So when I get back to the pit, I don't have a throttle cable anymore as a spare. And so the Sherco team goes back to get one. And so I'm just sitting there, just waiting. I, take the tank off, get ready for it. And then probably 15, 20 minutes later, Quinn comes with the throttle cable, and I changed it and get it all back together. And after it was all said and done, I think, looking at times, I had lost just under an hour. So I was going out in 19th place, but luckily I had an hour break, so I was fresh. Like, I was ready to go. So fresh drink of water, and
rode at full throttle anyways.
oh yeah, even once I changed the dog cable, I went out hard on lap 2, and yeah, I ended up on lap 2. At one point, I made a bunch of passes, and then with the lap 3 split, somehow it lined up perfectly that Cooper and Colton were lapping me as we headed into the lap 2 split. And so I followed them into it, and they were on their 3rd lap. So they were, they had less energy than me. But they thought that I was just battling with them. So I was able to pass them and kind of like mess their race up and unlap myself, which was fun, and had a good battle with them. And then, unfortunately, obviously, when we got to the finish, I had to do another lap, and they were done. Yeah, I headed back out and was able to make some more passes. And then right towards the end, I had caught up to Quinn Wenzel, and he and him were having a battle to the death for 11th. And
yeah,
and we both we both ended up in the last mile. We both broke our left foot pegs off, like simultaneously. I don't know if it was on the same rock, but I broke mine off, and I'm like, I have no idea how I'm gonna beat him, or like how I'm gonna get him now. And then I look, and his is dangling off too. And so I was like, oh, it is on. So I was risking it through these rock gardens with one foot, like, oh man. It was out of control, but I was able to make it happen.
I remember the post race stand up interview I did with you, and you were just like, "What a day!" Like you were just like, you looked like you were in disbelief. If you go look at it on YouTube, like literally, Brandon's talking to me, and it's like he can't even explain what had happened to him that day, and it was funny. And then I loved how like, how much joy you were getting out of that like, fake battle with Cooper and Colton. Like you were almost like rubbing your hands together in delight after the race, but like, oh my God, I messed with their heads,
Yeah.
like take the wins, in a situation like that, right?
For sure. And all you can do in a race like that when everything is going that bad, like it would have been very easy when I was an hour down to just, the van was right there. I could have pushed the bike right in. That would have been, it was over, but I don't know. We drove 24 hours to get there. There was no way I was not finishing that and, leaving it all out there.
Yeah, I mean, and you got 10 points. So, I mean, not the start you wanted to the series, but still solid. It's, if you just keep getting your results, like those top 5 to top 10 results, and maybe even improve on that, like you're going to have a pretty sick season, I think.
Oh, for sure. I have a really high need to work on the first hour of these races. I feel very confident when we're about 4 or 5 hours in, but definitely trying to stay with the front group for that first hour is a big goal of mine.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see this weekend if things shake out, similarly to King of the Motos, where there is a tight lead group just for the first, I don't know, half to 2/3 of the race. I mean, if that happens again, which is so rare in hard enduro, it'll be pretty wild to see.
I'd be pretty surprised, I think, if there wasn't that kind of Trystan Cody rider will like bunch
Colton,
up at the front.
Yeah.
Just, especially at a race like this there's not a lot of markings. It's, just some pink bags with rocks in them thrown on the ground. So through the qualifiers, there's the pace, I would say, slows down a tiny bit. So similar to a GPS race. So I would say that for sure in the qualifying anyways, there will be some really tight racing. The final is another story.
So your goals coming into this weekend, what would they be?
Yeah, pretty much just what I was saying. I'm like, I just want to show some speed early. I want to try to get a good start and really hang with them. I've always played it safe for all these years. I've always, rode very conservative in the qualifiers to save my energy for the final. And then in the final, I always start slow and I always take a few hours to ramp up and then I go really good at the end. That's, the conservative approach, but the conservative approach unfortunately can only get you so far. And yeah, I need to take some risks and try to be up there more.
Throwing some elbows off the start.
For sure.
Excellent. I'm just trying to think where I wanted to go next, and this is the beauty of this. We can edit a little bit after the fact. So what is it, so I guess you're living the life. You're a pro privateer pro, and, that's not uncommon in the off-road racing world, whether it's, motocross or any other discipline. What's that been like for you? And, do you feel like you're knocking on the door to take that next step out of there?
I definitely it's the step that I'm trying to make is to, show these flashes of speed and to put down some solid results to find someone that will take a chance on me basically. I talked to talk to all the team managers every year, and I just haven't I just haven't showed enough to earn a spot on any of these teams. I don't feel that, I've been robbed of anything. I just straight up haven't earned it yet, and that is what I'm looking to do. Is I want to show speed and get results and earn my way onto a team.
Oh, where was I? Sorry, I had a thought and I lost it. So I guess that's one of the things. Like, when I've seen you at a bunch of different races, you sometimes you've got Quinn there, sometimes you don't. And you said up at the, you're spending a lot of time working on bikes, and that's something that I've seen in person. And yeah, I mean, you've got good support package from Sherco, from Hard Enduro Outfitters, and all the things that come along with that. I guess that would probably be the biggest change, or the biggest step change you could get, is a full-time mechanic now.
For sure, that's a big step up in the program, and I really miss the races that Quinn is not at, for sure. These last few weeks of getting the race bike ready for the first one has been pretty stressful. I had planned on having this done like a week or more ago, and my bike is still completely apart.
Yeah.
I have so much work to do in the next few days, but honestly, it sometimes it gets really stressful, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm very lucky to, have dirt bikes to have the chance to work on.
Yeah. What was it at Silver Kings last year? You had a great YouTube video about it, where you had a pretty major, was it your exhaust or something blew up, and you spent hours the night before the race, rather than prepping yourself, you were working on the bike till all hours. What was that one?
Yeah, that one, it was a weird one. At the previous race, I had broke my clutch cover at Battle of the Goats, and I had thought it was just the outer cover, so I had lost the oil in that. I had fully lost the oil in that one, but I was able to finish the race with no oil. And afterwards, we were able to like clean the motor out good, change the clutch cover, but in that one impact, it had pushed the secondary clutch cover in just like a millimeter, like just the finest amount. And it was enough that on the prologue of Silver Kings, without hitting it on anything, it was just enough for a tiny leak to start. And then once it got out of hand, it ran out of oil. And by the time I had noticed, it blew up like within minutes of just, the clutch had fully gone. So I was stranded out there, and we had to get the bike back. So I had to ride it down the mountain with the bike off, because the Silver Kings, it's you have to ride like an hour up the mountain all at once, because the race starts at the top of the ski lodge. So the only way in or out really is on your bike, unless there is a truck road, but that would have taken hours, and I had to start wrenching. So one of the course workers showed me a way down, and I rode like straight down the mountain on like some back trails and on these way back roads, and I thought I was lost for sure, but somehow I copped out down at the mountain, just cruising with the bike off, full tuck, going down this mountain. And yeah, was able to get back, and Sherco had another of these secondary clutch covers, but it wasn't the change didn't go the smoothest, and yeah, I didn't end up getting it changed till pretty late that night, and even the next morning and all through the night, you're stressed about, did you do every detail right, and did I do any other damage? And yeah, it was a very stressful weekend.
Yeah, you're a pretty cool, calm guy, like on the surface almost all the time, but in that video, you could see like the stress just radiating.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to keep it all together, because I knew that the next day was going to require every ounce of energy that I had. That was that one was really tough. I think my finishing time was like 5 hours. I was one of the last finishers. I got 9, and it was that one took a lot of mental and physical energy.
Oh, I can't even imagine the toll that takes on you, and even King of the Motos. So, I stayed with you guys and Chance Daly at an Airbnb, and just watching like what you guys were going through, like working on the bike, even with Quinn there, the hours you were putting in, like I was like, wow, this is this is a tough life, man.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot at times, and everyone knows I'm not far from the greatest mechanic, so bike work takes me quite a while too. And but yeah, no, we do what we can to make it work.
Cool.
What
What's your
sorry.
No, you go ahead, man.
What with if you did have a full-time tech able to replace those times, what would you replace your time with doing? What would you prioritize in that scenario?
Definitely, like the races that I have Quinn at, my priority generally goes to stretching and eating. I definitely, with the hard enduro days, as much food as you can get in to account for the massive calorie loss that you're going to go through at a hard enduro race is very important to like build up that store before, and so you can recover from the week of traveling there, as well as the week of training, so you can go into that race at the best you can. And the travel that took to get you there requires, a lot of stretching to get you back from where you were when you stepped into that vehicle or onto that plane. So I definitely would dedicate it to those two things.
Oh, did we just lose you again?
No, I'm still here. No?
Oh, we're getting you a little bit. Oh,
Am I there?
He's back.
yeah, there you are.
Did you miss that last part?
We just missed the last part. Like after you talked about getting, what it takes to recover, like from the moment you step into the vehicle or step onto the plane.
Yeah, I was just saying that, like, from when your travel week starts, you're starting at 0, and as you travel, you're basically going into the negatives in terms of your mobility and stuff. So you need to work hard to stretch out after all the sitting and definitely all the lack of blood flow before the event.
Yeah, I found it pretty interesting. Shelby mentioned the other day, and she was talking about how she's got that support and they put a lot of time into walking the course on top of, and when they swap out that having to do the bike work, and then because they're walking the course so much more, she has to increase that calorie intake even more because of all those calories too. So pretty interesting stuff.
For sure. And course walking is a massive part of these hard enduros as well. Sometimes, the strain from just that Friday course walk needs to be accounted for as well.
Totally.
Yeah, having gone along with some of the guys on some course walks, like you guys are damn gazelles out there. You guys aren't screwing around.
You'll have to
that
come on
is
the track walk this weekend. It's pretty dangerous in Page.
well, I smashed a lens track walking at Outliers, so maybe not. But I've never
There's
been,
no
so I
easy
do
way
kind of
to.
gotta figure out how I'm gonna shoot that. But
Drones, AI technology.
You just got one.
well, yeah, I'm not taking it because I just got it, and like
You could just imagine, you could have fly right in like a foot from their head and go, "Hey guys, how's the track walk going?"
yeah, wow, looks hard.
Yeah.
Are you guys
Yeah.
sweating? I'm just cracking open a PBR back here.
That-
That's awesome. So from like your travel tales, we were just before we started recording, we were talking about this a little bit. For my big drive down, I've never driven down there before. From Calgary to Page. I figure I'm going to make it to Salt Lake City tomorrow, as long as the snow isn't too bad tonight. Where do you recommend I stay if I'm just going to be boondocking?
Yeah, that's a tough one. You definitely want to stay away from areas that are too dark, I would say.
Yeah.
Personally, I like Walmarts. I think even though there are sometimes some pretty sketchy people at Walmarts, at least you're usually not alone
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you're sleeping there. There's always an RV or someone that you can park by so you don't feel completely alone. And then, you can always go inside the Walmart in the morning to grab some granola or something in the morning.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, I was thinking Walmart or Flying J or something. Where do you, when you're doing that drive coming north to south, where do you usually stop? Like Salt Lake City, Provo?
Yeah, this last time that I came from the island, I stopped in Provo there, and I think I probably actually did stop at a Walmart. I'll be honest.
Well, we'll have to compare Walmart stories once I get there. Um, great. Well, anything else that you guys want to maybe bring up?
Well, I was curious. We just spoke of outliers there briefly ago. Did they ever find your bike that went flying into that bottomless pit hole on that outliers course?
Oh no, I heard it's still there actually. Yeah.
What's this story?
No, I'm just kidding. I ended up I got it out that day, like lifting it somehow when I stood at the hole, my rear fender, when I reached all the way down below my feet, that's where my rear fender was.
Yeah.
That that's how far down it was, and somehow, I was able to get it out of there and hang on to third somehow. I was definitely stressing at that point. I thought that I was gonna have to leave it there for good.
You'll have to find that video
Yeah.
where Brandon, I'm not sure when you were out there walking that course, Noel, like I've been out there before just with Lee riding around, and he's like, yeah, just be careful. And like you ride up this hill and you like look down and like literally it's like a sinkhole that's 6 feet, 8 feet deep. And you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
and out of nowhere. And there's a great video clip somewhere on the internet with Brandon. Like, I can't remember if it's like, I don't know exactly how you got into it, but I just remember the bike flipping and then just whoop, just the bike is completely gone. And Brandon's like, where'd it go?
Speak of a different dimension.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just like, speak of a different dimension. That's where your bike went.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what's your season look like for the rest of the year? I mean, I assume you're planning on doing the full US Hard Enduro Premier Series, Endurocross.
Yeah, so I'll be doing all of the West Coast Hard Enduros and the Premier. The East Coast
Yep.
are gonna conflict with some Endurocross. I don't know if it'll conflict with an actual round, but I won't be on the East Coast, so it'll conflict with the training. So
Yeah.
I'll just focus on that, and yeah, I'll be doing. So the Texas is next, Moab, the Battle of Goats, and then there's a bit of a break. So I was either going to go up to the east coast of Canada and ride some motocross for a few weeks or head home. And yeah, I've got to spend some weeks back in Canada to keep track of my days, but I'll definitely be coming back to Canada for a little.
Right on. And then sorry, you're gonna do TKO?
Yeah. So after I go up and go down,
then you'll do
I believe it's the Keystone Challenge, and then
Tough Like Roar,
Donner, and then I'll be doing TKO, and then then the grind for Endurocross starts, and time to come back.
The US Hard Enduro Series is one of, outside of the motocross stuff, pro motocross. That's really the only one that is goes coast to coast in the US.
Yeah, it's definitely, they do it a lot better currently than they did a few years ago. For privateers anyways. In 2021, I think it was within 3 weeks, I had drove from California to Iowa, back to California, back to Pennsylvania, and then back to California in consecutive weekends.
Wow.
That's nuts.
That's sick.
So luckily now they're not is a lot more generous, and he's thinking of the privateers. So we're very thankful that when we go east, it makes it good so we can hit a bunch of them, and then the west ones are lumped more together, and it makes it a lot more sustainable.
Right on. Well, that's cool, man. Well, maybe if the schedule allows, you could do some, and you're coming back home for a little bit, you could jump in and do some speed work at, I don't know, like a sprint enduro series in Alberta. Just saying. If only
I
I
might
knew
know
one.
one.
I was actually, I was considering the one at Travis Reed's. What month is that?
Oh,
Is
the
it
cross country. That's in
July?
July. Yeah.
It's in July. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
that one's July.
hoping that I would be back to that one. That one is pretty close to home, and I'm sure it'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah, that'll be a cross-country round. So we'll have that one formatted
Oh, it
like a
will.
GNCC
Yeah.
Oh.
style. 3-hour cutoff. So right up your alley.
I had some more
Yeah,
of a techie terrain out there too, so.
For sure. I definitely would not stand a chance in a short sprint with you, that's for sure.
That's why we mix it up. We want to get the full spectrum of skill sets.
Cool.
Well, right on, man. Branden, I know you've probably got bike work to do still. So
Get after it.
we're going to let you go.
Yeah.
And like Jared said, get after that, man.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you race again. This is Tuesday, March 19th. This will drop Monday morning after Grinding Stone. So I'll definitely do many check-ins with you there, and looking forward to seeing you race, man.
Yeah, you bet. See you this weekend.
Right on.
Best of luck from up here in Canada.
Good luck.